Among all the entries in the Smash Bros. Franchise, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, or Smash 4, was unique for many reasons. Arguably, the most influential one being the introduction of DLC fighters. Diddy Kong and Sheik dominated the game's release, but downloadable characters would accelerate the meta and reshape the tier list. As the dust settled with Smash 4's last update, and Ultimate on the horizon to become the next mainstream Smash title, the final tier list established the clear hierarchy: Cloud, and most notoriously Bayonetta, as not only the strongest DLC characters, but the strongest fighters in Smash 4 overall. Or did it? What if I told you that there was a character with kill confirms at ridiculously low percentages, some of the best movement in the game, a customizable moveset, a character so broken that they were banned less than a year after the game's release? Let's talk about the real best character in Smash 4. But before we understand who the most broken character in Smash 4 is, we have to talk about what broke the game first, long before Bayonetta was even announced. Let me introduce you to one of the most unique, broken, and short-lived mechanics in the series: custom moves. In Smash, every character has 4 specials, unless you're playing Smash 64 or Terry in Ultimate, who has a back special. But Smash 4 introduced custom moves, which gave every character 2 additional variations to each of their specials, the only exception being DLC characters. But there is evidence that they were originally planned to have them. Mewtwo had some cryptic custom specials hidden within the code of the game. Shadow Ball's first custom variation becomes an invisible projectile, and it also teleports Mewtwo to the right regardless of which direction they're facing. If fully charged, Mewtwo becomes unable to move, but doesn't receive any knockback. The second variation shoots a useless version of his side special, Confusion, which normally grabs opponents and spins them around before releasing them. And again, when fully charged, leaves Mewtwo stuck forever. But this leads to some very weird interactions, especially with Final Smashes. Their first custom side special acts identical to the default version of the move, while the second grabs opponents forever, being an unintended reference to that horrific glitch in Melee. Mewtwo's custom up B either crashes the game or becomes his down special Disable, and Mewtwo's down special either crashes the game when used on the ground or slows down the game. I guess they had to test which time somehow. But these forgotten moves weren't limited to just one character. Nearly every fighter was initially intended to have 3 customs for each of their specials. Mario, for example, was supposed to have a version of Flood that did electric damage. Ike and King Dedede's up special would fall to the ground slower. For characters with projectiles, most didn't spawn in at all. When testing Palutena's unused specials, her movement becomes completely corrupted, and Ness's new PK Thunder would also crash the game. Another scrapped detail is that Kirby might have been able to copy custom specials too. Now, I'm no programmer, but creating 12 additional moves for each character doesn't sound easy. 8 already seems like enough work for the developers. However, not all custom moves were given equal attention. A majority of customs are slight variations to speed or power. But Mega Man is unique for having source material inspired custom moves with their own individual assets. And a few fighters also have some Easter eggs in their custom moves as well. So you just had that the entire time? Some moves also have very unique properties and concepts. With the sheer amount of moves available, it's no surprise that some of them are garbage and some of them are... Now, going over 376 individual moves is quite the daunting task, but rest assured, I am not going to do that. Who do you think I am, Mewtwo King in 2006? Let's look at a few standouts that I believe accurately represent how broken custom moves were. Falcon and Pikachu had an infinite combo with their Lightning Kick, Thunder Wave, and Meteor Smashing Quick Attack. Oh, and he could also...
Pikachu is gone, and we're back.
Donkey Kong could become an airbender with his Storm Punch and Kong Cyclone. which had invincibility upon startup, super armor throughout the move, a giant wind box that sucked opponents into you, and could be auto-cancelled. This move was the Smash 4 equivalent of Meta Knight's Tornado in Brawl. Oh, and Wii Fit Trainer also had a similar move. Kirby's jump in hail was hilarious. Palutena's lightweight gave her insane mobility. There was a cooldown period where you were slower than usual, but a glitch let you bypass this. Her side special, Super Speed, was very similar to Sonic's Spin Dash, the difference being you were completely actionable during the move. Speaking of Sonic, he could get an extra Meteor Smash, an extra Spring, could bury you in the ground and suck you into his ball. Now, could you imagine if all of this was possible at one of the most prestigious tournaments at the time? Could you imagine? EVO is a tournament series hosting multiple fighting games and is widely considered the largest event of the year for their respective communities. Smash had an extensive history with EVO, going all the way back to 2007 with Melee. But let's jump ahead in time to whoa, too far. July 2015. Smash 4 just released about 8 months ago, and as the new title in the Smash series, it would make its first appearance at EVO. But there was one major catch. Customs were legal. And with custom moves being on for the largest tournament in the game's history at the time, tournaments leading up to EVO followed suit. Players would discover the ridiculous power of these moves and began crafting the most optimal strategies revolving around them. Jesus. And the jank.
There it is, and who wins? Who wins? Whoa. What's the rule? What's the rule? What's the ruling?
There was plenty of that.
He's gonna, they do it again! Not again!
And soon enough, on that fateful weekend in July, mayhem ensued. But the player who capitalized the most on this new rule set didn't end up winning, or even make the top 8. Captain Awesome. A villager main from New England quickly became notorious for abusing custom moves, and at this tournament, he introduced the world to the menace that is Custom Villager. A supersized Lloyd rocket, exploding balloons able to be detonated at any point, and his tripping sapling being a 15-second, ungrabbable banana peel with no cooldown and, oh, the tree attacks you. His juiced-up specials made it even possible to camp the ledge, while invincibility from re-grabbing the ledge was removed from Brawl to Smash 4, these moves provided more than enough protection. All of this madness culminated in the infamous match between Captain Awesome and Larry Lure, one of the best players in Smash 4 history from Southern California. Instead of going his main Fox, he opted for Sheik instead, whose mobility and custom moves handled villagers camping much better. Larry had been practicing against Awesome's specific moveset the entire day, and as a veteran of both Melee and, more importantly, Brawl, a much more defensive version of the game, he was prepared for the worst.
Three, 2, 1, get him out of here! Get him out of here!
Captain Awesome didn't win the match, and he wasn't even the highest placing villager. Throughout the top 8, most players barely used customs, with some swapping out only 1 or 2 specials at most. And Grand Finals had neither competitor use custom moves at all. But the damage was already done. The sheer amount of chicanery from this tournament, the tournaments leading up to EVO, and Captain Awesome's match against Larry Lure specifically, showcased just how badly customs could warp competitive play. While Villager just got more annoying, throughout this cursed era of Smash 4, no character displayed the absurdity of custom moves better than this fighter. It's time we finally talk about the character defined by custom moves even after they were banned. The most broken character in Smash 4, Mii Brawler.
Welcome back, Fire the Pyro.
A character so explosive that his entrance animation is a bomb. But his default specials are decent at best. His shot put is okay, but takes forever to come out and doesn't deal nearly as much percent and knockback as you would assume. Onslaught is actually a solid kill move. However, it's easy for opponents to fall out during the attack, and you are helpless after using it even if it connects. Up B doesn't go anywhere and just sends you straight down. Down B also sends you straight down, being a worse version of Bowser and Yoshi's bomb. But his custom moves are where it gets interesting. Ultimate Uppercut is essentially like Donkey Kong's Giant Punch, and the Capcom fighter's Shoryuken, with it being a giant Shoryuken. And his exploding sidekick is essentially like Falcon's Falcon Punch, except it's a kick, but it's not Falcon Kick, it's like Falcon Punch, but his other side specials are a green missile clone without misfires or getting your head stuck in a wall, and Backslash without the back part. Piston Punch doesn't go far horizontally or vertically, but has insane kill
Clean
power.
out the stock before he gets
That's it.
grabbed.
But Helicopter Kick is the move that defined Mii Brawler and bestowed them with ludicrous amounts of kill power. Helicopter Kick and Piston Punch both benefited from Rage, a mechanic introduced in Smash 4, which increased the knockback of your moves the more percent you had. But like other new introductions to the series, Rage still had a few oversights that weren't fully accounted for in competitive play. Foot Flurry is similar to Onslaught. On the ground, you shoot forward, but if used in the air, you levitate for a brief period before falling again. Feint Jump is similar to Zero Suit Samus's Flip Jump, but when you kick, you get to fly in either direction. And when I say fly, I mean fly. It is a fantastic movement option and can be ledge cancelled for even more tricky mix-ups. But believe it or not, custom specials are only one of 3 features that explain why Mii Brawler is so broken. Aside from Brawler's specials, he had a great combo game with his tilts and aerials, and his smash attacks were pretty solid. And because of this, he was often compared to Mario, especially with all the jank they both had.
To it. He's like, I don't. No, he didn't.
Also, a bizarre trait that all the Miis had was they had a much longer ledge getup animation compared to other characters. This made their neutral getup from ledge more difficult to punish. But here is the largest reason why this character is broken. Or should I say, smallest. His moves weren't the only thing you could customize. When you create a Mii, you can adjust their height and their weight. These proportions are carried over if you use that Mii to create a fighter in Smash 4, and both attributes would affect a variety of stats for them in the game. For a given Mii's weight and height, they represent a multiplier for a specific stat. These values are multiplied together to obtain the final modifier, but these numbers only represent the absolute minimum and maximum multipliers. It wasn't just small, normal, and large Miis. You could have a tall, skinny Mii, a short, fat Mii, and everything in between. And with these multipliers, the most broken combination was to have the smallest Mii possible. You would only miss out on some damage, survivability, and traction, but the sheer amount of speed you gained was well worth it, even having less lag on your attacks. The lack of damage and kill power was more than compensated with his broken specials. His perfect pivot, a widely used tech throughout Smash 4, was the longest in the game, along with having the best airspeed in the game by a sizable margin, the 6th fastest run speed. His combos became easier because of the lower ending lag. His airspeed allowed him to drift back to stage after hitting a helicopter kick closer to the blast zone. You could create a monster in Mii Maker, and it wasn't only because he could take stocks early. He could easily run out the clock after taking an early stock with his insane mobility. On the other side of the spectrum, the Chungus Mii isn't really worth it simply because of how slow they are. So most players opted for Small Brawler. But why was Mii Brawler and the other non-game-breaking Sword Fighter and Gunner Miis banned as well? Smash 4 is no stranger to jank, and while Small Brawler was certainly broken during the short period it was legal, Bayonetta in the same amount of time warped the meta far more dramatically.
Wow!
Immediately after EVO 2015, the community realized the fundamental issues custom moves introduced. Aside from the fact that they were unbalanced, logistically, they were a nightmare. I haven't even mentioned this yet, but you had to unlock the moves themselves. Aside from the Miis and Palutena, players had to unlock all 376 moves through minigames, with the possibility of repeats. And this is all just to have a single usable setup for a tournament. The second problem was with 3 versions per special, there were 81 possible moveset combinations per character. Being prepared for all of these was basically impossible. The community did try to make things manageable by creating the official custom moveset project, which transferred the 10 most viable setups for each character onto the Wii U through a Master 3DS. But if tournaments didn't have access to it, they would be forced to unlock the moves themselves. That was just too much effort to get timed out by Custom Villager. The project was used for EVO 2015 and other tournaments leading up to it, but quickly disappeared after customs were banned. Miis were playable even when the custom fighter option was turned off, but they were inherently linked to custom moves and the frustration surrounding them. It didn't help that custom moves and the Miis weren't usable on For Glory, the first attempt at an online competitive game mode in Smash's history. Immediately after EVO, Mii fighters were either banned entirely or limited to their default size and moveset. During most of Smash 4's lifespan, players never saw just how terrifying Small Brawler could be. The community simply wasn't ready for the nearly infinite range of speed, weight, and size that Miis offered. Custom moves and Miis were quickly forgotten after EVO 2015, but still remain an absurdly interesting piece of the game's history. But looking back at Smash 4, that game was so broken that we should have kept them anyway. Honestly, let's just go all the way. Give each character 5 custom moves. Small Brawler? How about Smaller Brawler?
The mobility and combo potential will be insane.
Thank you, Maxley Dev, Fluffy Sheep 17, Smax, Lil, and Lucas for your continued support.